There she go. Y'all, this is summer. This is summer. This is my model today. So I might be, oh no, I'm in frame. Okay, cool. Hey y'all. Hey everybody. It's been some times. Hey Letitia. I've been quiet over here, but I'm working. So I started a series with Ancestral Strands talking about Dear Braiders. There was a post I had some time ago that said, Braiders, your clients are complaining. And from that, we decided to take some popular complaints and basically address them in video series. So the complaint due for today was about parting, right? And if you're a braider or a stylist, parting is crucial. Even when I was learning, the people that I braided to practice on, they were like, listen, one thing I know for sure is that I am not going to leave here with my hair looking messy. And so that's important even as a beginner or just practicing, right? So that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. Let's get to it. So if we want to be technical, which we could be, right? Because we always want to be professional. We have to recognize the parts of the head, right? And so let me get her out of here. Let me get her out of here. So from ear to ear is usually where I suggest people start their braids, right? This part of the head is the nape. It's just like the first and best, easiest place to start and create some type of guide. The reason being, head shapes are different, but head structures are not. Okay? Head shapes are different, but head structures are not. And this is crucial for you to understand, because it doesn't matter how big her crown area is. It doesn't matter how wide her nape area is. Structurally, client to client, you are dealing with the same parts of the head. And that is important so that you don't feel intimidated or feel like, you know, I'm doing something wrong. So you can't approach every head the same because of the shape, but you can because of the structure. And so that's why understanding the parts of the head will also help you to visualize when you have a client and they sit down in your chair. So this first area, ear to ear, is the nape area. And this is always where I suggest you start. This middle area is the crown, right? We think of the crown as the whole head, but it's technically this area above the nape. The curve point of the head, you can feel it in your own head, is your occipital bone, right? So to put it easy, and I'm not going to use the terms the whole time, but just so that you understand, to put it easy, the area below the occipital is the nape, right? So find that curve in your head, and everything below that is your nape. When we get to the front, what I call the promised land in Knotless Nation, don't go tell that to a professional stylist. Like, I made that up to make it easy for me when I was braiding people's hair, and I was like, ooh, I'm almost done. And that's the promised land. So that's what I call the promised land, but this is essentially the apex or the top of the head, this front area, right? I'm going to take out these braids. So this doll is pre-braided. I did not braid it for this. This was in a lesson that I did showing the difference between knotless and traditional braids. So ignore the condition of her head. But basically, this area right here, when you have this area left, you know this is the most exciting part of an install. You know you're almost done. So this is what I call the promised land, but it is technically called the apex, right? The top of the head. Now, when you chew, when you feel that area that rises, that is your temple, right? Above that is your parietal ridge. That's basically where the top of your head becomes the side of your head. It's just a small bony area. And this, of course, is the sides of your head. What am I saying? Yeah, the side of your head. So now that you understand structurally the parts of the head, this should be what you use to guide you client to client, right? So I have another doll. I just wanted to show you because I'll show you how to approach it now when a client sits in front of you and you see all their hair and you're like, oh my God, how am I going to push through this? But with that in mind, that's what's going to guide you, and that's what's going to calm your nerves and make you not feel intimidated no matter who's in front of your hair. Because one of the things that happens is clients sit down and you may inadvertently talk about their hair out loud, like, oh, there's a lot of hair. It never matters how much hair a client has, how much hair a client has to me, because I know structurally all clients have two ears, a top of the head and a back of the head. That's it. Everything else, it doesn't matter, right? Everything else is figure outable. The distance may change. Like I said, if the person is has a wider section ear to ear, has a bigger crown, that may change, but essentially a head is a head is a head, right? So again, to start off, this will always be the first section I suggest you part out, ear to ear. So let me grab this doll. So traditionally, this is my new doll, Maya. I can tell you details about her later. This is Maya. So let's say Maya comes into the salon, right? And she comes like this, and she's like, oh my gosh, this is the best that I could do. Sorry, blah, blah, blah. You back here, you like, okay, cool. Let's go. What happens when she takes this out? This is what you got, right? This is what you got. And you're going to feel intimidated and overwhelmed. But remember, ear to ear, this is how you're going to start to make sense of it. And I was using her for another lesson, so there's kind of a cheat line there, but I'm gonna still walk you through it. So she shows up like this. You're overwhelmed. The first thing, well, you might not, where's my comb? You might not start with a rat tail comb depending on the condition of her hair, but maybe you'll start with a comb like this, right? A bigger comb. And we'll use the rat tail comb to redefine and sharpen the lines that you create. So what you're gonna do, again, is with your hand, before you even get a tool, with your hand, you can start to work through her hair and, you know, check to see how detangled it is, or, you know, that's, you're assessing, but essentially you're kind of just talking like, okay, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. During that talk, you're literally creating chunks of sections to work through her hair, right? Sometimes they arrive like this as a braider. If you provide the wash, that's a different, obviously you can get through it, but I'm saying if you do not provide the shampoo service, this is just a suggestion, the easiest way to get through it. So you're working through the hair, and you know, ear to ear, you're going to find that nape area. So as you're talking and greeting your client, maybe you'll work through it and create a very ratchet, you know, section that, you know, somewhere below this is her nape area, is a clean line ear to ear. So you part this off with your fingers, then go for your tools, right? So once you have this section here parted off, you can then get your, where did I put that rat tail? Then you can get your rat tail comb, right? This is a lot easier to work with than when she came in. This is a lot easier because now you can see her ears. Before I get into the parting, I want you to remember your client's posture matters with parting, right? So if she's on her phone and she's bent like this is a no-no, right? If she's laughing and talking to you and she's like this, like, yeah, did. I love to talk, but let's get back to what I'm here to do, right? And what you want to do is take a second to ask her to sit at natural head position. This is important, and I know if you've ever gotten a haircut at a salon, you think that maybe the stylist is fussy because they're asking you to sit straight when you're getting a haircut, but that's because degrees and angles change the end result. And if you don't have a good or a straight a natural head position and your client's head is not straight, that affects the entire mood of the install, especially when you're doing braids, right? So always ask your client to sit at their natural head position, right? Not like this on the phone. Natural head, upright. right? Not too high, not like literally right here. This is the position she needs. Her legs cannot be crossed. She can't be slouching. She's sitting upright. She's sitting with her head straight. Again, it happened to me when I was showing my last client on a one-on-one training. She didn't even realize it, and some people don't. But I just want to remind you that head posture, body position changes the whole thing, right? So just please remember that. So now that she's in a proper upright position, you are also behind her in an upright proper position, right? And so I hope y'all could see. Let me see. Yeah. And so what you're going to do is begin to make your part. So you move the hair gently out the way, put your comb straight, and just at the top of her ear, start to create the beginning of a line. Don't think that you have to come here and go all the way around and get it right on the first try. It's not going to happen. Little by little, follow the first line you make, separate it with your other hand, and go around her head, right? This is going to create that very first section for you to work with. I'm turning her head, but essentially this will be you going around the client. All right? I hope that's making sense to y'all. Boom. So now you have this first section parted out. And even if this is your child, this is a good way for you to get in the habit of gaining control of the hair instead of feeling overwhelmed by the amount of hair your child or your client has. It doesn't matter. Parting is parting is parting, right? You always want to be in control of the hair. So again, ear to ear with her head upright. Do you see how, I mean, it was there already, but I'm just saying, little by little, you connect the previous section to the new section you make and go around. This first line is the guide for the whole hairstyle that you're doing. Trust me, it may not seem like it, but it makes a huge difference. So I'm just going to braid this away. I hope this is making sense so far. Okay. So, boom. You got this section away. Then you take this out and you're back in the jungle, right? You're back like, shit, what the hell I'm going to do with this? But remember, structurally, okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Structurally, we're not panicking because all clients have 2 ears, a forehead, a nose. Like, there's nothing to worry about. So boom. So now we're at this crown area. Don't forget, if we're using technical terms, basically the middle of the head, right? Middle of the head and the apex, the top, the front. What you're going to do now, what I suggest, right? This is all suggestions because there are so many ways to part hair. This is literally suggestions. And this is how I approach my clients' hair so that I don't feel overwhelmed and so that my work, even if I'm practicing something new, my work is neat. So now you want to come to the front of the head, right? And I suggest the next area you part out is this apex or crown area. What do you use to decide that parting? Well, of course, you use the shape of the head. The hairline gives you clues, right? Remember that parietal ridge, that natural indentation that not everybody actually, some people have it slighter, some people have more dramatic, but that natural recession of the hairline is a good indicator. So for her, it's about right here and here. It's a good indicator of where you're going to want to place, to part out the top of the head, the apex, right? So what you'll do is, again, go to the side of them, find that natural curve, and just make a line, right? Just make a straight line. How far back you go? Well, you use the head as a clue. Again, the head. Hi, Lavelle. The head is your cheat sheet, right? The head is going to help you. The head is all you need. So when you make that first line, where do you stop? Use their air. Again, we're trying to connect dots. So use their air, which if you see it here, is the end of this, right? If we use this line and come up to the part that we just made, right? Let's use that. Now we have this section right here. Again, perfect lines and all that detail can come after. This is a very basic guide of how to get control of the hair. And it might seem like, oh, this takes long. Trust me, do yourself a favor until you get more comfortable and create these sections. One of the first things you learn in beauty school is creating sections. For everything you do, for color, for haircuts, everything is about sections. And so for braid hairstyles, it's no different. So now you have that on the right side. Boom. Turn her around and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm in front of her, so this might be wonky, but we're going to see. We gonna see. So I'm just taking the end of the rat tail comb, making a line, not stopping anywhere specific right now, but using her ear as the guide where to make the box. Lift it up. See that line? That's a good line to use as a guide. Come straight up. Boom. This is the next section. And guys, again, this is for a very basic head map for your installs. When you get into fancy parting and all that stuff, obviously you'll do something different. But for your most basic install, this is a good guide. So boom. So now that whole monster that you were intimidated by has 3 sections. Right? Moms, this could help you. I hope this could help you. 3 sections, right? Even if you can't braid, even if you don't know what to do. This right here is a hairstyle, if you ask me, right? Give her 3 dookie braids and a ponytail at the top. She done. So now we have this middle part. What you can do, let me see if I could, let me see. What you can do, Hubs just got home, sorry. What you could do, hi sweetie, 419. What you could do is now look at the overhead view of your client, right? The top of their head, the apex. And all I'm gonna do for this example is connect this corner to the other corner, right? So let me do that and let's see what we got here. Again, don't worry about perfection. You can perfect lines later. This right now is all about control. Boom. If you have questions too, please let me know. Boom. All I did was connect corner to corner. While you're doing it, you can also correct yourself because you'll start to see the parting, like the areas come to life. So now we have this middle front section, right? What I call the promised land. This is the promised land. Very simple now. Good. Thank you. Thank you. That's what I like to hear. So, tucking that in. Boom. So now that same head that we were afraid of, right, is now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. Well, you can't really do this to your person, but but you have 5 organized sections of hair, right? When it comes to, how can I say this? Let's say you're doing a braid install, right? I'm going to assume, well, this is what Knotless Nation is all about, doing knotless braids. But there are so many ways to part hair. I'm just trying not to make it confusing because y'all said it's going good right now. Let me see. So, what do I want to say right now? How do I want to say this? No, I'll leave it just like this. I'll leave it like this. So, boom. So now you have all of your sections. Hold on. Does it get less intimidating, or do you still feel some kind of like, whoa, when you approach the hair sometimes? No, I really don't. I truly don't. It doesn't matter. The only time I'm woeing is when I realize maybe, again, in the head size. Because structurally, that's not intimidating for me anyway, especially after you get used to it. It's like, okay, I just need to find her ears. That's how I start. It's like, I just need to find her ears and I'm good. Because once I make this, my woe comes from, oh, her ears are a little further apart, which means, she has a lot of head, which means I'm going to probably take longer. So my woe is probably when I'm assessing the amount of time that it'll take me to get from side to side, depending on the size of the braids that I'm doing. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying. Like, once you get comfortable with parting, it should fade away. Like, it really should. Does length intimidate? Nope. I love some long hair. I just love it because the hair has everything I need. Because remember, when I'm doing knotless and when you're doing extensions, well, knotless, I can only speak for knotless because extensions is different. When you're doing knotless, somebody with this length of hair, I'm beginning with their hair. So that means that I don't have to add as high up. You know what I'm saying? So when they have long hair, if it's somebody like this, I love it. I love to see it because then to me, the work even is neater. The ends of their hair is more towards the middle of the braid. So it's easier to kind of tuck and hide. When the hair is short, you got to be a lot more intentional about how you tuck the ends so that it doesn't stick out too high up in the braid, especially if they have a trim. So nope, length and all of that, no problemo. Some clients would say, do you need me to send a picture? I'm like, nope. I just need you to show up and be on time. I'll do the rest. Don't even worry about it. All right. So boom. Oh, and I want to say this. Just because I did this with the mannequin, this is not a detangling tool, by the way. This is only for parting and precision. This is not a detangling tool. This is a parting tool. Okay? I just want to make sure to point that out because I've even had somebody tell me that their stylist used this to comb through their ends. No, ma'am. This is parting precision. Parting precision. Right? All right. So now that we have this middle chunk, what did I want to tell you? Oh, I wanted to tell you one more thing. We're already at 7:30. That's nice. I wanted to tell you something else. When you're parting, one thing that you want to do also is step back from your parting so that you can get a clear view. When you see barbers and they're like this and then that's not just tricks and gimmicks. That's for you to get a better view of your work. Remember, while you're parting or creating your lines, the client might be laughing, talking, bending, ha ha, he, and you want to keep working, and so you're pushing through, but you might be too caught up in the conversation to realize that you followed them at their angle and created an angle in your parting, or you're just too close up. When you're too close up to your work, you can't really see. So just take one natural step back and make sure that your work is aligned. So I wanted to make sure to say that too. All right. So what I wanted to talk to you about next is when you actually start braiding, right? I wanted to show you something about finding the middle. Braiding is very much visual as it is physical, right? So you can be very technical, and I'll give you something that I shared in the Knotless Braids Blueprint that when I showed one of my girls this, they were like, ah! And it's just a really neat trick that you can use that will help you until you start to connect your eyes to your hands, right? There has to be a lot of hand-eye coordination for parting, or it's just never going to make sense and you're going to take long, right? And pre-sectioning, I'm a believer in, even though it takes time, it helps tremendously, because when you pre-section, then the client can laugh, talk, fall asleep, because it doesn't affect your parting. Boom. So let's go back to this back section right here. So now your hair, right? How you part this next section will determine the size of the braids, right? If you're doing jumbos, and again, everything is subjective, because what's small to you might be extra small to me, and what's jumbo for me might be regular for you. So again, this is a very basic guide, right? There's no standard on sizes. You decide what you're not going smaller than, whether it's pinky size or whatever, or 2-finger size. You create that. So when I'm starting the braid, let me turn her this way. Again, this area will vary client to client. This goes back to heads being different in shape, but not being different in structure. I've had some people with a very wide area when I parted this section out, and I've had people with a very small area because they were crown heavy. It just depends. There's an average, obviously, but it truly just depends. And so when I come here now, if I'm doing, let's say, medium to large braids, this I would split in two. So from looking at this section now, I would just begin, and again, I'm standing on the opposite side, so I'm not in the way. So excuse me if it's janky right now. But this, visually, I will find the middle and split into two. The cheat trick that I want to show you is a good way to reference, double check your work, is with the comb in your hand. You don't have to pick up anything extra. You don't have to do anything new, right? So what you want to do to double check your own work is use the comb. How do you use the comb? As a ruler. How do you use it as a ruler? Use the teeth, right? So let's say this is your first time and you're trying to tighten up your neatness. Your hand-eye coordination isn't there yet, and you're just trying to figure it all out. You're going to take your comb. And again, this is something that my Knotless Nation girls know from being in the class, but I'm just giving it to you right now because that's the spirit I'm in. What you're going to do is take the top of your comb, put it on the part, and measure with the teeth the size of it, right? So, for example, let me turn my body. So right now, the teeth to the back of her head is about right here. It's this many teeth. Hold on. Let me hold it right. Can y'all see that? It's this many teeth. This is the width of this area. How do you find the middle? You find the middle with the comb instead of the hair, right? And this is also how you measure if it's the same size. So let's say I'm really good at my hand-eye coordination, and I'm like, well, this look like the middle, or she laughing. I mean, obviously it's not, but let's just say, okay, well, right here, I want to put it right here. Taking the comb, you can do a quick measure of this area and say, okay, that's about that, but this is clearly not. Does that make sense? Because if you take this and measure it against that, you still have teeth left to cover that area. So I hope that didn't throw you way off, but that is a great cheat sheet tip to use your comb as the ruler to find the middle, or to double check the lines that you just made. So, okay, always me. I'm glad that helped you. Good. That is a great way for you to check yourself until, like I said, you do this. Good. Not a lot of people know about it. Good. Okay, sweetie, you got it? All right, cool. So, again, until your hand-eye coordination gets better and you can find the middle, that's a way that you could find the middle of the back section. And it's just something that you could use, like I said, until you figure out what the middle is. So, let me part this section out. my janky sectioning, because I can't see. Don't forget, if you have questions about parting, smart trick. Yes, it is super smart and super simple. Super simple. Let me know if you have specific questions about parting. Okay. So now, where's this thing? Now that we parted out that first section, this is the row that we'll begin to braid, right? You make me want to go try on my daughter's hair. It looks neat. Please do. Please try. I'm telling you, it'll make a difference. It'll make a difference in your work. And again, even if you're not the best braider, the best twister, it doesn't matter. One of the key things to a beautiful braid install is harmony, right? And harmony comes from symmetry. And symmetry comes from parting. Again, it's not about exactness. And it's not about, oh, that box is bigger than that box. And especially when you get to the front where you might go a little smaller. But when the changes are subtle enough that it still blends with the overall appearance, that is neat work. And that is one of the ways that your clients will not complain about how the braids look. You know, if that makes sense. Because again, I was a beginner too. My father was in construction, so parting and neatness I just grew up with that. Everything that I did, if I hung a picture on the wall, he would come with the ruler and say, Camilla, this is not straight. So I think that's where I kind of got it from, paying attention. But your daddy don't need to be in construction for you to make straight lines. You feel what I'm saying? So you can literally use the client's head or your daughter's head or whatever person you're working on, use their head as your guide. So this is the first section of what I would braid, right? And so just for the sake of what this is, let me show you now, right? You find the middle. Again, this is hand-eye coordination. You'll get used to it. Let's say you're doing big old jumbos, right? So you make this first part, boom, this is the first braid, right? This is the second braid. Big old jumbos, and you're moving right along, right? The part that you sectioned off comes down. That's the next braid section. For people who don't know how to bricklay, and again, there are a lot of ways to part here, but we're doing a very basic bricklay. What you're going to do, the easiest way to part for this next section is to use this first section as your guide. And again, this goes back to when I said what you start with is going to set the tone for the rest, right? So if this line is crooked and this is not the middle, everything else will get thrown off and be on tilt, and we don't want that. So what you're going to do is at this braid, you're going to find the middle of this box, right? And that'll be the section for the first braid at the top. Now, yes, there are ways that it won't be exact. Again, depending on the head shape, but that's where you fine tune and make small adjustments just to make sure that you have balance and harmony in the braid. So boom, this is braid 1. Come to the other box, find the middle of that. This is braid 2, right? Again, janky, but just so you get the idea. And for the moms, this is a great way for you, again, to just put big but neat work in your child's hair. When you part out those first 2 sections, all you have left is the middle. And then this middle piece covers the parting of the first row. Did that make sense? So now you can see you have the beginning of neat work, right? Good. We cool? We good? So that was a lot of little tips right here. You always use, so when you part out this next row, are they all the same amount of hair? In these sections, you mean? No. So that's why I said it just depends on how you refine it, right? This is not the middle of this area. I'm just going through what the lesson is. Like, I'm not actually finding the middle and parting neat. But this is off center. So, like, you know, so in an ideal world, yes, they'll be close to, nothing exact. Don't fuss about exactness, right? Yeah. So I'm just showing you how to more so find the middle of the work you're doing, as opposed to really standing here and doing exact work. So the main takeaway is basically what you establish as your first row will set the pace, and it will either help the harmony or offset the harmony of the rest of the work you do. So that when you're doing this next row, the line, is her head straight? The line should align up with this braid. Whereas, you know what I'm saying? So your next line will be hair in this row. So we're at 737. I wanted to talk to you about the front of the head real quick for this free ass lesson in parting. I hope this is really helping y'all, the people who did not respond, because it's dinner time. That's why Hubs came back with some food. That's why I'm like, all right now, time to eat. So let's talk about the front real quick. The promised land. Remember, this is not the technical term. Don't go asking somebody, how long does it take you to do the promised land? That is unique to me and unique to Knotless Nation and unique to Miss Hearing Humor and what I do, because the promised land just lets me know I am almost damn done. Okay? I'm almost done. This free ass lesson is much appreciated. Good, me. Thank you. This is great. Good. I'm so glad. So let's talk about the front real quick. I know you've seen it other places, but well, before I say that, let me say this. As a braider, as a stylist, as a mom, whatever, it is important to figure out the end look of what you're doing before you start to part it out. You know what I'm saying? So for example, when I first started braiding, or I should say first started having clients, I used to ask them, where do you have your part? And they were like, what? Where? Who asked? Like, this ain't a weave. Reason being, when I would see people post pictures, I would notice in little, comment, you read comments or you just pay attention, and they're like, oh, the braids are nice, but I wish I could. And they would manipulate the braids. Now, the braids will always, let me get my other girl. The braids will always be able to move, right? Again, this is Summer, who I braided for a lesson on the difference between knotless and traditional braids. So that's why she's pre-braided. But essentially, you want to know if your client or your person likes a middle part. Some people don't. Most middle part girls know they like middle parts. You should definitely establish that before you start to part in section. Why? Because you might miscalculate the measurement of your sections. So basically, if you don't take the time to figure out where they like their part, that will throw off the harmony that I spoke about before, right? And so when you establish that they want a middle part, that middle part becomes your guide for the rest of the parting that you'll do for the apex, right? Save this live and make it a miniature. Yes, Chelsea, trust me. I took a deep breath and I'm here to show a little shum. Yes, thank you, Chelsea. And IGTV. Yep, I'm definitely going to save this. So yeah, this first part that you make using their nose as a guide is going to set the tone for this whole, let me find the parting sections that I said, for this whole top section, right? Does that make sense? So if they don't want a middle part, let's say they're like, no, I hate middle part, it makes my nose look big, right? Sweetie, yes. Sweetie, I'm telling you, it makes a difference. This whole part right here will change because you might just be going through the motions as the stylist, just parting and then get hair. And she's like, oh, I don't really like middle parts. So you want to establish that first. And maybe she's a side part girl, which is fine. But that just means instead of giving her this line here, you might not go this wide because that's like a big braid. But then you will change the width of this section. You see what I'm saying? Let me get the other doll and show you what I mean. So this is an example of if she wants, where's the section? If she wants a middle part, you make the middle part, find the middle of that section, right? Picture this unbraided, and that creates the two sections here. But if she doesn't like a middle part, let me get back this doll. Again, use her head as a guide. What you could do is find find her middle, right? Which would be, again, janky. Hold on. Get the nose, right? Boom. Find her nose. Come up from the nose. Is this even straight? Let me see. Hold on, y'all. That's the tip too. Sorry. Use the nose as the guide, right? Most people have a nose in the middle of their head. Right? Sometimes widow's peak might throw you off or something like that. But for the most part, you can start in front of them and then continue it behind them. Don't feel you have to get it right on the first shot. Instagram is a liar, making you feel that the end result came easy or natural. No. Sometimes you have to start at the front, finish at the back. Whatever works for you, you do that, right? Boom. So now that you found her middle, what you could do if she doesn't like middle parts is, again, that comb trick that I showed you. Count maybe 3 teeth, right? And draw a line here. So you get this part here, right? Count 3 teeth on the other side, which your comb could naturally do if you just align it the right way, right? Come on the other side. Do that. And now you have, instead of a middle part, you have a middle section. So now if she, and depending on how wide her apex is, how wide the top of her head is, you can make adjustments so that you at least have 1 row, 2 rows on the side. Does that make sense? So you have the middle row now, and now you're just taking what's left and creating the last 2 rows for the crown so that she still gets a side part and a deep side part. And then you just repeat the same thing on the other side. Split this piece in half, right? And so this will essentially be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces in the crown, and that will complete the front of your head. Does that make sense? So whether or not she wants a middle part, you can use her head to guide you to figure out your parting. Because sometimes what happens is braiders will, let's say, again, you're not thinking about it in sections and you're overwhelmed. You might come on this side and just start parting. And then over here, you're like, okay, 1, 2, 3. Then your hair, okay, 1, 2, 3. And because there's no concept of measuring and no checking of your own work, you might get here, throw it off center, 1, 2, 3. And then when you get here, you're like, this ain't the same. How come I got a row? I'm gonna show y'all the row. How come I got a row that look like this? And I've seen this row in people's head. How come I got a row that look like this? Look at that. Right? It's this one small row, and then the rest are chunky, and it just don't match up. That's because of harmony, parting, symmetry. Again, symmetry. You know that row, sweetie. You know that row. It'll be, everything's all cute when she's doing the Instagram videos. She cute. It's like, oh shit, you making me want braids. Oh my God. And then what happens when she go like this? It's that tiny ass row. It's just like a tiny row. And you're like, how come? What happened over there? And it's because the stylist did not take the time to map out the hair in sections so that you can approach it systematically. Remember, Head shapes change, head structure does not. That is like, if you forget everything else, I want you to remember that. Head shapes change, head structure does not. So structurally, you are dealing with the size, the temples. If you want to be technical, the parietal ridge, the nape, the crown. If you don't want to be technical, that's fine. As long as your end result is what you need it to be. You have the sides of the head, the back of the head, the middle of the head. And it's really connect the dots, right? That's the way you work through. I've been guilty of doing that wrong. Listen, no judgment. We all had to start somewhere. We did. But as you get better and as your prices get better, you don't want to send nobody out with that one scraggly braid that kind of don't belong nowhere. Now, mind you, that doesn't, again, there's so many ways to part. Sometimes it might work. Like if you're doing arch parting, it might work. If you're doing faux locks, it might work. But chances are, if you're doing knotless braids, which is already a scalpy braid style, you don't want her to have that tiny row. You don't want her to have that tiny row. And you damn sure, let me show you the other type of part that sometimes ends up happening. Listen, I'm guilty of it too. I ain't gonna lie. Especially with my friends. My friends used to get, they used to get it. I'm like, sorry, girl. This row right here. You know that row. Small front, wide back. Ooh, child. Then when they face the front again and the braids is all good when the braids are down. But it's when they start to flip and show their style off. It's like, ooh, that's a mess up. So again, when you have this section left, like I do right now, this section should complement, especially because this is the part she sees in the mirror. Let's not forget that. This is the part she sees in the mirror. So the apex, the top, is truly the most important. The back is important. It's all important. But the back is important because this is what people see, right? But what she sees in the mirror is what's really important. Because if she sees something that is balanced and harmonious in the front, she will defend whatever's happening in the back. Right? And I'm not saying do BS work, but I'm saying if she's like, yo, my hair is cute, and somebody try to say, well, girl, something in the back don't look right, she'll be like, don't even worry about that. I look cute. I look cute. What she sees in the mirror is what really matters. Again, you want all to be harmonious. You want it to be in sync. You want it to be neat. You want it to be lined up. But if she looks in the mirror and she's like, chances are she's going to start to go through your whole install to see what else is on tilt. You feel me? So that's just little braider to braider little inside scoop. Because like I said, my friends got the short end of it, but they love me. So that's why I always tell people, start your journey with people who love you, because they will be the most forgiving. And again, even if you're not the best braider, if you do neat work or the best twister or the best whatever, if you do neat work that is harmonious, it is more forgiving than the braids don't look how they want and the parting is on tilt and you got the small janky section. She's gonna be like, and then she's gonna do what? Throw it all up, because we've seen that too. She's gonna take her braids and you're gonna be on her Instagram, because that's what we do. You're gonna look at her page to see, did she post my braids? Did she post it? And you know what she's gonna do? She's gonna do one of these joints right here. She's gonna take it all, put it in a bun, right? And then she's gonna put a scarf right here. We don't want that. We want them to be proud. We want them to be proud, and we want to represent our brand. And so again, I hope this was helpful. It is minutes to 8. This was part of a series that I'm doing with Ancestral Strands called Dear Braiders, Your Clients Are Complaining. Next week, hopefully I'm able to do another topic with her. This I am definitely going to save. So thank you so much. If you don't have any more questions, I'm done for the day. I hope you, again, got something out of it. Don't forget, this is not a detangling tool. Don't forget. Hi, Julie. This is not a detangling tool. This is a parting and precision tool. This is to part. This is to make precise. Okay? I'll leave you with that. And I'll leave you with the reminder. You're welcome. Thank you for staying, sweetie, the whole time. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, me. Don't forget, structurally, heads are all the same, but shape-wise, they are different. So don't be intimidated. Don't be intimidated. Approach everything structurally the same. Like I said, I'm going to save this. Please watch it again if you need a little reminder. Please share it with another braider or another mom that needs help to understand not to be intimidated by a whole head of hair. Okay? Oh, thank you, Truly Special. Affirmative. Thank you. This was awesome. Okay, great. One cruising mama. Okay, I'm glad this helped you a lot. Okay, perfect. All right, guys. I'm going to log off and save it. Hopefully it saves. And have my dinner.